So for people who are interested in using Inspiration, both as a way to present information for students to interact with, such as an outline, but also as a presentation tool, there's some upgrades to Inspiration 9 that make this a little easier, and some ways that you've always been able to use Inspiration to make it work a little better as a presentation tool. So this is an example of a Pathfinder someone created for the American Revolution, and just from the general web view, there's some things that are important to point out that can make this more usable as a presentation tool, such as on a interactive whiteboard. The first thing to point out is just as you're going through to be aware that if you want to present actually from the web view, you're going to have to be pretty well versed in zooming in and zooming out of different parts of the image. There's also an important part of the software that is good to use, especially when you're using it as a presentation tool, and that's the hand at the bottom of the screen. And when you click on that hand, you'll see that now when I just click, such as on an interactive whiteboard, I can actually just move through the diagram, and I can click off of the hand and maybe increase the zoom a little bit more, and then click on the hand. And again, there's a lot of reasons why something like ActiveInspire or PowerPoint would work better for this, but I'm just making you aware that using some of the zoom features and also using the hand to just kind of navigate and move through the diagram, especially as students have this in front of them, can be in a way to make this more effective as a presentation tool. A couple other important points things to point out when you're thinking of using this as a presentation tool is, one, part of the reason you've probably used Inspiration was you wanted to possibly use the images that are available there, but you also probably picked Inspiration to use because of the flexibility of it. And so again, if you were presenting this or you wanted to hand it out to students, you could give them a choice of their handout in the web view like we're looking at now, or quickly switch to the outline view that could be printed out and sent to Microsoft Word, and I can quickly switch back to the diagram view. The other thing that you can do is, if you decide that you start off as a web and you wanted to do this more of like a timeline or in a linear fashion, Inspiration allows you to make some quick changes to that. You can click on this Arrange button, and you can click more to kind of see the layout of what these different types between tree, web, and split tree look like. So you can see, which one of these might be a better way of arranging the symbols for you. And I'll click OK. And now you'll notice when it pulls up in more of a linear view, and the presentation is still not viewable on the whole screen, but you can see now I can move these pieces around if I wanted to, and move the accompanying diagrams around a little bit and reconfigure them. But the other thing that you can do in this view is that you can zoom in like we were doing before and do a little bit more using the hand to kind of move along through the timeline in a little different way. And again, you could sort these in a way that would accurately reflect the timeline. And finally, the last thing that you can do with version 9 of Inspiration is you can quickly send this to, and I'm going to undo that and get it back to the web view the way it was before, by clicking on Control or Control Z on the keyboard, is the presentation tool. And so when I click on presentation up in the upper right hand corner, I can do a couple cool things. And if I know before I do the presentation that I want to have some images that I want to use in the presentation, I can click those and click snapshot, and that means it's going to save those individually to pull into the presentation. And maybe I have some others that I want to use. I'll click snapshot, and I can also add snapshots later. So when I click on presentation, it'll give me some choices, and in this case I'm just going to choose the first choice that comes up with the format of the first one, and I'll choose 2 boxes, and that'll allow me space to do an image and also for some text. And so I'll click OK. And now it's going to generate a presentation that I can use on an interactive whiteboard or print out or on an LCD projector. And you'll see that it generated slides from my outline, retained all the hyperlinks. And the nice thing is now I can, any of those images that I have from the graphic organizer appear on the side over here, and I can drag them into the presentation. And I can resize these boxes if I want to make it work a little better for me. And then as I'm going through, if I decide that, you know what, I don't see an image here that relates to this, I can always incorporate the image that it generated automatically. So maybe I do want the actual part of the organizer displayed, and you can do that if you want, but oftentimes you want maybe an image that you imported. You can always click this Create Snapshot button. And now when I go back to here, I'll click on any of these images that I want to incorporate, and then click Snapshot. I'll click Accept, and then it asks me if I want to take another snapshot. I will click No, and it'll take me back to my presentation screen. And now I can add that image from Bunker Hill. And pull it into my presentation. So once you start using it in this way, I think the advantage of using Inspiration for something like this is that you can create a graphic organizer that maybe is a pathfinder for students to interact with, either in the overview graphic organizer or diagram view, and then quickly export it to a outline view. But then you can also create a PowerPoint like presentation in this tool that they have now, and then when I click play, you'll see that it'll present on the full screen. And now you'll see that it appears on the full screen like a presentation, and when I click on the screen, it'll advance the slides. All my links are still active, so I can always click on those links to those websites that I've added in the organizer if I wanted to do that during my presentation. And then you'll notice too that my images have been pulled in that I added from my snapshot. So this is a way that you can work with that graphic organizer and really leverage the time that you put into creating one material to have a couple different presentation options for students, both individually but also as a group.